The Duck Who Was Too Poop to Quack, a true story from the University of Miami, 1976 to 1979, as told by Rich Gilley. Sometimes some of the best and most regrettable stories of your life can start with the simplest decision. In my case, it was agreeing to go have a beer at the campus Rathskeller with Bob Lemon. It was a long, soul-crushing day in my music education journey at the University of Miami. Orchestration, music theory, the physics of sound, vocal techniques, marching band rehearsal under the blazing Florida sun, and then hours locked in a tiny practice room trying to coax music out of my exhausted fingers. By the time the sun went down, I was done. So my friend Bob and I headed over to the Rat, the legendary student-run campus spot that served food, beer, wine, and extremely poor decisions. We ordered a pitcher like civilized young men. I nursed 1.5 glasses. Bob, however, decided the pitcher was a personal challenge. He polished off the first one and ordered a second, which he dispatched with the quiet determination of a man who grew up on a farm in Homestead, Florida. As the beer took effect, Bob started reminiscing about his childhood, hunting squirrels, catching rabbits, and turning them into dinner. I sat there as a proud vegetarian, quietly wondering how I'd become best friends with a man who once considered roadkill a protein source. He kept saying farm life gave him special skills that came in handy from time to time. I should have taken that as a warning. We finally left the Rat and began the long walk back to the 960 dorm complex, those massive 12-story towers that loomed over campus like concrete monoliths. My room was on the 11th floor. As we strolled past Lake Osceola, the big man-made lake right in the heart of campus, something caught Bob's eye. The duck. This wasn't an ordinary duck. This was a colossal pure white Pekin with a bright orange bill. Easily one of the largest, stockiest ducks I had ever seen in my life. He looked like he'd spent the last 6 months at Duck Gym, pumping iron and eating nothing but steroids and protein shakes. An absolute unit of a bird. In one terrifyingly smooth motion, Bob took 3 quick steps, bent down, and scooped that massive duck up like it weighed nothing. He tucked the bird neatly under his left arm, pressed it gently against his body, and kept walking as if he were carrying a stack of textbooks. The duck blinked once, twice, and seemed to accept its fate with the quiet dignity of someone who had simply had a very strange day. I stopped dead in my tracks. "Bob," I hissed, "what in the world are you doing?" Bob glanced at me with total deadpan calm. "Relax, Rich. I grew up on a farm. We did this all the time." My heart immediately kicked into overdrive. I kept waiting for the punchline, for the moment when he'd laugh, turn around, and return the duck back to the lake. But Bob just kept walking. Cool, casual, like this was the most normal Thursday night activity in the world. Every step toward the 960 complex felt heavier. My pulse was pounding in my ears. I kept scanning for campus security, other students, anyone who might notice we were committing a blatant act of duck napping. The fluorescent lights of the dorm entrance grew brighter and more menacing the closer we got. Bob, we're at the complex, man. This has gone far enough." He didn't even slow down. We walked straight through the front doors. Then the blazing white fluorescent lights hit that poor duck directly in the eyes. And that's when nature decided to file a formal complaint. A powerful liquid pressurized stream of duck poop rocketed out like a biological firehose, missing my leg by mere inches and splattering the floor behind us. The smell was immediate and apocalyptic. Bob didn't flinch. He didn't even break stride. He cruised right past the security desk like a man who had done absolutely nothing wrong. The security clerk never looked up. It was the single greatest display of criminal nonchalance I have ever witnessed in my life. We reached the elevators. My shirt was sticking to my back with sweat. "Bob, this is insane. What are you doing?" I whispered desperately. He just gave me that slow, drunk, mischievous smile and stepped into the elevator. Against every ounce of common sense I possessed, I followed him in and pressed the button for 11. The doors closed. It was just me, Bob, and one very large, increasingly agitated duck. That elevator ride was the longest 11 floors in the history of vertical transportation. I kept imagining the dean calling my parents. Every ding of a passing floor made my stomach tighten. Miraculously, no one else got on. When the doors finally opened on the 11th floor, Bob casually released the duck. What happened next was pure, glorious chaos. That massive white Pekin waddled out like a feathered tank on a mission. He strutted down the hallway with complete confidence, dropping heavy, wet payloads every few steps like he was marking brand new territory. The duck entered someone's room, dead silence for 2 seconds, then an explosion. "What the hell? A duck just shit on my bed!" I clapped a hand over my mouth, trying desperately not to laugh loud enough to get caught. I failed. The duck continued its reign of terror undeterred. Next room, "Whose duck is this? God damn it, it shit on my floor." Doors flew open. Half-dressed guys stumbled into the hallway in confusion and horror. The duck kept going, leaving a crime scene trail of destruction behind him as he entered other rooms. I finally started to feel genuine guilt for the duck, for my floor mates, and for my own survival instincts, so I tried to gently herd the big bird back toward the elevator. By some miracle, the doors opened and the elevator was empty. The duck waddled right in like he'd been waiting for his getaway car the whole time. I sent him down and held my breath. A few seconds later, from the 10th floor came the sound that will live rent-free in my head until the day I die. A high-pitched, blood-curdling female scream. I was dying inside, equal parts horrified and hysterical. And Bob? He had already vanished into the night like a ghost. I'm pretty sure he passed out somewhere in a deep, well-earned, duck-assisted coma. I never went back to the Rathskeller with Bob Lemon again. To this day, I have no idea how that magnificent white duck finally made it back to the safety of Lake Osceola. But I do know one thing for certain. That night, one very large, very pooped Pekin taught an entire dormitory floor the true meaning of the phrase, duck and cover.